We are so up, family. We are up. We are back. Momentum is back. Hello and good day, besties. My name is Shelby Ashley, and welcome to another recap of Big Brother 28. This was episode 14. This is our week 4 veto competition and ceremony episode. And off the top of the bat, I gotta say, this episode was kind of long AF. It felt super long, but thankfully we got a fun veto competition to spice it up in the middle. And we are going to get into some feeds action at the end of this. But, of course, remember to like this video, comment below as you watch, because I don't have lots of people to talk about this with in real life. So I'd love to chat about it in the comments. And subscribe to the channel so that you're here for the next episode recap, which is tomorrow night, with this very pivotal, I almost said veto, I almost said HOH, this very pivotal eviction episode. Right word. You just got to go through that Rolodex of Big Brother terminology. So, getting into the episode, y'all. This was here. We start off, wrong button. We start off with Haley nominating Drew, Taylor, and Melody for eviction. Haley considers Taylor her target because she thinks that would get the least amount of blood on her hands. And Drew is her backup because she's kind of sketched out by him and doesn't really trust him very much. And then we see, I don't normally clock this, but we saw a repeat DR from Drew. It was literally the same DR from the episode prior, and it was even in the recap at the beginning of the episode, this literal exact DR. So I was super thrown for a loop when I saw that repeat DR. But Drew is basically, was just saying in that DR that, she made a mistake putting him on the block, and he's gonna get his revenge, and he's gonna make her have to renom someone and get blood on her hands whenever he wins this veto. Taylor is turning into Taylor and Melody, two icons, and I can't lose either of them. But Taylor is saying that it's a bitch-ass move from Haley, and she knows now for sure that she can't trust Haley, and she says that now she is in beast mode. Taylor had such a great episode. Taylor is so likable and just coming off so authentic. I would say literally the same exact thing with Melody. They're both coming off very authentic, very much themselves. I love how true to themselves they are in the DR. No line, even if a line's fed to them, they put their own swing on it. Everybody's got those lines that are fed to them when it comes to rules of a competition or something. But I just love how genuine these two women are being. And I'm living for literally every second of every DR. Because we get Melody right after in the DR going off about Haley, how she's playing an honest game, and asks if she wants a fucking cookie. I don't think she said the F word, but I just love her so much. And she also says, she's talking to the girls in the room, and she says that she needs to stay here to see Haley leave. And that is the revenge story I need so bad. I need some of these people who are on this powerful side of the house to just get some comeuppance. Mallory is also going crazy in the DR, saying that, Haley wouldn't know a hard week if it hit her in the face. Haley's never seen the block. None of her allies have seen the block. She's literally faced, no hurdles or anything like that. So I don't know what the F this girl is talking about. Her and Melody and Lyric are all talking shit, and Lyric says, she kind of sees the writing on the wall, and even though she loves these girls, she kind of needs to be a free agent and let him go a little bit. And then Lyric is talking to Kamu, and she's telling Kamu that she wants to work with him. She wants to work with the people he's working with. She wants to join a side that's winning instead of being on this losing side of things. And he's basically let me talk to Haley about it. Taylor then goes upstairs to talk to Haley, and she's just why am I on the block? And Haley says that, Taylor was the only person laughing when Jason was doing his whole teapot thing. And, Taylor starts saying, that has nothing to do with me. And then Haley gives her a, or something like that. And Taylor's like, no, I don't like that. Don't do that. Which, kudos, dude. Like, I respect people who can just instantly, no nonsense, and, slightly respectfully, not in a harsh way or anything, just be like, you're not going to say that to me. Haley's basically saying that Taylor is just guilty by association, and Taylor's like literally leaving the HOH room and be like, well, I guess I'm guilty by association then. And she thinks that Haley just put her up for emotional reasons, and it's not a good gameplay. And she says that Haley woke up the dog in her, and I'm pretty sure she called Haley a heifer, which is crazy. And even Lala says that Haley needs to be knocked down a peg. And if Lala's talking shit about you on this edited television show, you just know these producers hate this woman as well. Like, Haley is getting dogged on like the entire episode, and Haley really thinks she's eating the whole entire time in all of her DRs, even in the veto competition. Haley is like saying her little quips, her little one-liners or whatever, and it's just like, none of us are buying what you're selling at all, Haley. So, not into that. We get this funny little moment. It's actually so random that it was in there. I thought maybe we'd get like a montage of silliness, but it's just Angela in the hammock, and she's like talking to the cameras, to her family, giving her husband like a little honey-do list, like mow the yard so the neighbors don't get pissed, and I hope you're like taking the trash out or whatever. And then, she like ends the conversation like, hey, miss you, love you. And then she like gets up, and I guess she didn't see Dia there, and she literally like scares herself falling out of the hammock, and Dia's just dying laughing. I thought that was fun. I think I've seen several hammock falls so far, so you could have done a whole hammock thing. But I also, along with the strategy, I'm kind of here for the silliness of Big Brother. I mean, that's why I keep tuning in. So I like having little stuff like this in the episodes. Kamu then talks to Haley about Lyric. He's saying that she's desperate, she'll be loyal to them, she's a lost puppy dog, and he just wants to guide her on where to go. And he runs the idea of Drew being the actual target this week instead of Taylor. And, like, instead of Drew being a pawn, what if he's actually our target? Haley isn't so much against the idea of going for Drew, but she's not so into Lyric like joining their side. She says she's not blinded by what Lyric looks like Kamu is. We get a lot of this in the episode where Haley's talking about, just Kamu just has hard eyes. But Kamu just has like hard eyes for Lyric and is just like, flirting with her and all of that. But Kamu kind of has a point where, Lyric literally has nowhere else to go, and Lyric does want to work with them, but Haley's just like not buying it at all. We get a small Devins and Drew chit chat, and Drew is saying like, him being nominated is pretty freaking baloney, but he kind of sees her reasoning, which, I mean, I guess if you're in Drew Lulu land, then you see the reasoning. But if he comes off the block, the idea of returning the favor to her and nominating her and putting her on the block sounds quite nice. And Devins isn't so into him going for Haley because it could really blow up Devins' whole spot. And then we get, speaking of Drew and, Devin's not really being into this idea of him, nominating Haley, the icons and the red corner are talking all in the HOH room, and they're kind of just talking about Drew, and they all say that he's all over the place, he's on the other side of the house. Dee says in the DR that she's down to get rid of Drew this week, and Devins also seems on board. They all kind of agree on it in the room that Drew is the primary target this week, and Angela's practically foaming at the mouth at the idea of this. She's so excited. This is what Angela's been wanting literally since week 1, so Angela's pretty happy just to see it all come to fruition. And Angela has some sway in this house, I think. Her paranoia of Drew has begun this whole thing, but Drew also has not helped himself at all by literally spilling too much tea around the house. He's telling everybody everything, telling, things that Melody's told him and stuff, and it's just not cute. It's not good. So those two things mixed together, it's just not a good recipe for Drew to stay this week. And Haley also says, again, that she's had a rough couple of weeks. And just, girl, where is this rough time you've been having? Is it because you have a crush on Kamu and you're super jealous and you didn't get your mans? And I think she had a crush on Rome too, but she just keeps getting rejected by these men. And that's her problem, and that's why she's been having a rough time. But as far as gameplay-wise, girl, shut up. Shut up. Melody says it best in the DR. Just roll back anything Melody said this whole episode. Then we get a moment between Dee and Devins. And, Devins is like, Taylor's in the bathroom. Shh. And he's like, do you have a power? He's literally in the shower. And she's like, no, I don't. And then we get a DR from Dee talking about, she has this power, but she's not telling Devins, even though Devins told her about his power, because she needs something that differentiates her game from Devins. If she brings Devins to the final two, they need, you can't just say each other's games. You need something in your own pocket. So if she has this power and she keeps it, then, that ought to garner some respect from the jury that, she had this whole thing that was all her own. So pretty solid from Dee, and I think that's a great opportunity to have something that, because the way this game's going, let's not live in La La Land. The way this game's going, Dee and Devins will make it to jury, and they are going to be in the runnings to win this game, especially Dee, in my opinion. So even if she's not next to Devins, you can have the David and Goliath story of how you got rid of all these icons in the red corner and stuff. But if Dee, was doing so well, she didn't even have to use his power, come on, you have to give it to Dee at that point. Even if you're anti-vet, these people, these icons are playing such a great cutthroat game that they're able to make the target whoever they wanted. Haley wanted Taylor to be the target, and now they are pushing the Drew agenda and now getting everybody to agree on the Drew agenda. So they have a lot of power in this house, and it's just really interesting. I'm really loving these Dee camera talks, the Dee DRs, and the Devins DRs, just because, you think that they have each other, but they do kind of have each other, and that's very rare to actually know that your final two is your final two. So, even if it becomes a steamroll, as it's kind of looking at it might be, at least we have intriguing players to watch, So we get Dee and Barrett talking, speaking of Dee, and she's telling Barrett that Drew is the target this week. And she tells him that he's good. Don't worry, you're okay, Barrett. But Barrett can't help but assume that, if Drew wins this veto, that he's next. And it's duh, you assume it, because it's exactly what it feels like. Because you are not in like you guys think you are in. So he's clocking this pretty well. Although, Drew is in way more danger than Barrett is. Barrett is not very far behind him. And so, Drew kind of is nervous about his safety. I'm sorry, Barrett is nervous about his safety. I don't know if I just said that, but if I didn't, Barrett is nervous about his safety. Drew then tells Haley that he wishes he had a heads up before he was nominated, and that wasn't super cool. And Haley tells him that the target is equally Melody and Taylor, just depending on what happens. Haley says that she wanted it to look like that they weren't working together, and that's why she nominated Drew. But Drew thinks that she's just trying to get rid of Melody to weaken him because she knows that he's really close with Melody. We get veto players drawn. And then Melody's chip is drawn, and she chooses Mallory. And Mallory says she wants to win and take Melody down. And then Haley might know what a rough week is. These women are iconic, I gotta say. They are all kind of eating in the DR. They're all, so rage-filled that they're all kind of eating, except for Lyric. Lyric is pouting, but man, these girls with a vengeance, I'm here for it. And then Haley's chip gets picked, and she picks Chuck. And then we see a rare Chuck DR. Chuck got a lot of DRs because he was in the veto competition. But I bet your ass if he wasn't in this competition, we would have saw 0 Chuck DRs. Chuck does tell Drew that if he wins, he would probably keep nominations the same, which is giving Drew even further motivation to just put the red corner up if he ever gets in power, because obviously they're not on his team if they're just going to leave him on the block and let him maybe accidentally go home. Because pawns go home. And we get a DR of Taylor right before the veto comp. And I'm telling you, this woman is iconic. She says, y'all really don't want to see... Well, she says, like, really don't want to see how crazy she is. So she needs to get in the right headspace and win this veto. Because I guess if she did not win that veto... I mean, Taylor is a really one of the more interesting players in this season to me. So feisty Taylor has been fun. So feistier Taylor could be even more fun. So when she's got her back up against the wall, I think the claws are coming out. And if she has power, I think she is just going to eat it up for sure. We get to the veto competition and the doorbell rings to the Big Brother house, and we see Morgan from last season walk in, and she does say justice for Rachel Riley, which, yeah, we don't talk about that. They all go into the dining room table time machine, and they go to February 18th, 1752. And they play the poison drink veto competition. This is the same competition Morgan hosted on her season last year. I loved the costumes. Love. Look, I haven't watched Bridgerton, whatever, but oh, how fun was this? Everybody looks so good. All the girls with their like hip extender thingies, all the men and all the masquerade masks. It was super fun. And is that like a quarter of the budget for the wardrobe, by the way? That's kind of crazy. There's a lot of people to dress up for that competition, even if they're not playing. In this competition, the house guests will go into the cellar, and the whole thing is to get your opponent to drink the glass of poison. So they pick, which one's the poison and which one's not the poison. And their opponent can either drink the one they're given or they can swap them. And if you get poisoned twice, you're out. So to go through this kind of quickly, Drew goes first, and I really enjoyed his DR of explaining the rules again, which I don't normally even comment on, but he had a fun little accent when he did it. Drew picks Taylor, and he does not trick her. He is poisoned, and he gets a cute little red mask when he's poisoned. I wrote, ooh la la. Melody is next, and she picks Chuck because she thinks men are easy to trick, especially Chuck. He says he's not falling for it, but he did. He's poisoned. And then Mallory picks Haley, and I cannot believe that the nickname Pipe Queen is this canon, that Mallory just refers to herself as it just so casually. And she's also really fed up with the other side that has had the power the whole time. She is ready to rumble. I think she would go kick Haley's ass if she could right now. But Mallory does not trick Haley, and Mallory is poisoned in that round. And then Haley, I wrote, Haley gives a weird malfunctioned wink, because at one point Haley, they're saying who all wasn't poisoned yet. When they said Haley, it cut to her and she went, just something I noted. I just thought it was weird. Next round, we have Taylor, and Taylor picks Mallory. Taylor tricks Mallory, and then Mallory is out of the competition after a very dramatic fall, and Mallory is our first person to go after being poisoned twice. Chuck goes next, and he picks Melody, and he ends up tricking her. Melody ends up getting poisoned. Drew, also I wrote his outfit is giving the little lad dance berries and cream guy. If you know, the berries and cream, but that's exactly what he looks like. And in this round, Drew picks Haley, and then we get a Devin's DR out of nowhere, which I kind of got jump scared at, because Devins isn't even in this competition, but production loves this man. They love this man so much that they gave him one of the most powerful things ever in Big Brother. So he is just literally, his DR count is going to be through the roof at the end of the season. Drew does get poisoned, and he is super dramatic about it, and he like falls to the ground, and Devin's like goes up and like cradles him, and then he checks his pulse and says, yeah, he did. In the next round, Haley picks Melody, and she's like, do you want to match the wine with our hair colors? And then we get Melody in the DR like, do you want to match the wine with our hair colors? And this woman needs to stay. I want you to stay. Like, please stay in my life. And then she says in the DR, quote, bitch, if you just don't hand me the wine glass. Haley does not trick Melody, and Haley does not trick Melody, and she gets poisoned. But, you know, one thing I will say after a couple Haley DRs after the Devins one, I'd rather have a Devins DR. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, he does give good DRs. Next, Chuck picks Taylor, and he tricks Taylor, and Taylor is poisoned. Now everybody is poisoned, and so everybody has one shot, one opportunity. This is everything they ever wanted. So Chuck is first in this round, and he picks Melody. And unfortunately, Melody was tricked, and is poisoned. And then she says, never trust a man who gives you a drink, which those are words to live by, my lady. And by the way, everybody is still laying on the ground after they die. So everybody's just chilling on the ground for minutes on end while this veto competition still happens. So, one thing about being in the Big Brother house, I'd love to see the behind the scenes of all this. Like, it's just really, Mallory was just laying on the floor for like an extra 30 minutes probably while they played this competition. Like, it's just so funny to think about. Haley then picks Taylor. Haley gets poisoned, and Taylor says there's just something about her being the one to poison her, and she's got some joy out of watching Haley die. And then we have Chuck versus Taylor left, and she tricked him, and Taylor wins the veto. Turn up. Taylor says that the honeymoon phase is over, and she is hot. Haley says it sucks that Taylor won the veto, because now she has to put up a fourth nom, and Melody feels like shit about it, and Drew is really hoping the renom is someone that him and Melody can campaign against. And I think it was this DR. Drew had flat hair in the DR. It literally, again, another jump scare. There's multiple jump scares in this episode, and that was one of them. And he also has the same hair at the end of the episode, so it must be the same DR. But, yeah, please stick to going upside down whenever you dry your hair, my sir, because I don't know about that look, but I can go for the blowout better. But I don't know. It was different. It was a little, I don't know. Drew then asks Barrett and Devin straight up, like, am I being tricked? Am I being fooled? Am I a big fool? And they both lie to him. And Barrett just says, like, he can't tell Drew what might happen, like, Drew what's happening because of what might happen to him. Like, if Drew goes and tells someone that Barrett told him, then Barrett could be the one that goes on the block, and Barrett doesn't want that. Lyric is nervous about maybe going on the block because she hasn't really talked much to Haley. And then, you know, right after that conversation, we cut to Haley in the HOH room, and she is talking with a chunk of the Tool Shed Alliance, and they are all talking about the renom. Kamu is pitching kind of for Mallory to go up, but more so for Lyric to not go up. And he's saying that, you know, Lyric wants to play with them, and, you know, it doesn't really matter what Kamu says because Haley is not vibing with it at all. She does not want Lyric in their alliance. She says that Mallory isn't going to put her up, and Lyric hasn't come to talk to her at all, and all Lyric talks to is Chuck and Kamu. And so, you know, they're kind of like going at it in front of everybody. And Angela's like, is Haley jealous? Does Haley have a crush on Kamu? Maybe. Haley says that Lyric is going from man to man to man, and that Kamu ruined her buzz with all that Lyric nonsense. Next, we get Haley talking to Mallory, and then Mallory is kind of gassing her up a bit, saying she's doing a great job as HOH. I think Mallory did really good in this conversation, and they both make a deal to keep each other safe. Mallory does take that deal, and she says she could still go after Haley's friends if she wins power, so she doesn't really have to go back on her word very much. Mallory then talks to Lyric about how, they're talking about how someone on their side is going to go home this week. And then they kind of talk about, like, what would they do if they had power and they got it? Like, who are they going to put up? And, Mallory's kind of saying, she threw out Chuck and Kamu's name. I can't remember if she threw out Haley's name or not, but Lyric uses this information that Mallory said, and she goes and tells Haley. She kind of sells Mallory down the river a little bit, and she's really trying to get this redom heat off her. But really, it's not the best look because it's not showing any loyalty, and I think Haley really values loyalty. And she even tells Lyric to her face that this doesn't look great. That Lyric just kind of looks like she's jumping ship because she's on a sinking ship, and that's kind of true, but she's really throwing her friends under the bus, and it's not a good look. Lyric says in the DR that she's just trying to do what it takes, even if it does mean kind of throwing her people under the bus. Like, she says that, people think lawyers lie all the time, they're good at negotiating, but law school does not prepare you for Big Brother. Haley says that, she has promised both Lyric and Mallory safety in some capacity, so she will kind of have to go back on her word. We get the veto meeting, and of course Taylor uses the veto on herself, and Haley redoms Lyric. She said that the decision was not personal, it was just gameplay, and in the DR she says she doesn't trust Lyric, and Lyric just kind of, jumped ship as soon and dropped her friends, and so she doesn't trust her because of that. Lyric is crying, she's saying this game's hard, and she's just sad that she's in that spot. Melody is pissed and crying, and that she's on the block again next to her number one. It's her dream to be here, and she doesn't want to go home. Drew says he's not the sharpest tool in the tool shed, and bitch, I'll fucking say, Drew, because you have no idea what's going on around you, man. So, with that, we have Drew, Melody, and Lyric going into the Big Brother Blockbuster competition tomorrow. So we'll see where these votes lie, who wins the Blockbuster, how that shake things up, and hopefully by the end of tomorrow night we get a new HOH. So exciting. This week has been so wish-washy for me, and I am just begging for a power shift, so I really hope that we get that tomorrow. So we are going to get into a little bit of live feed update content. So if you don't want to know any of these spoilers, please feel free to click off. But don't forget to subscribe, like, comment below who you think is going to win the Blockbuster, who you want to win the HOH tomorrow night, and anything like that. And I'll be here tomorrow for the live eviction recap from week 4 of Big Brother 28. But if you want to know a little bit of live feed tea, as we saw, Drew, Melody, and Lyric are on the block. Drew has been the main target all week, but I think Dee is kind of bored. And she wants to flip the vote, because I think her and, she gets Stebbins on board too. I think they are kind of realizing that Drew is, really into the tool shed. And maybe they could just use him as a number for a while. And everybody else wants to go after Drew. So why are they going to be the ones to take him out? And they could, get somebody else out. But why are they doing this, Oh, and Drew will also take shots at the red corner for them. So Drew is actually pretty good for their game. So it's kind of seeming like a vote flip's happening. I don't know. It's back and forth. It's really hard to keep up with everything and what's actually finalized. So tomorrow could be pretty interesting. My predictions, as I love to do, ideally, I think I would love for Melody to win the BB Blockbuster, because I want Melody to get a little bit of confidence in herself and really put some pep in her step and give her some momentum going into next week, because I would love to see a Melody or a Mallory HOH. I think that would be prime time content, and maybe even Taylor at this point. But I would love that. And I would love to see Lyric be evicted this week, because I want Lyric to do well, but she's not really gaining her footing. Not that anybody really on that side is getting any footing at all, but I am more interested in the storylines to do with Drew and Melody and my little slow burn showmance. Like, I just want to keep that for just a little while longer. So I just really hope that, I think my interest in the season depends on it. That if Drew or Melody leave, that'll really, 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 really suck for me. So, and if anybody on the power hold inside of the house wins again, I don't know if I can do another week of this. I mean, I will, but oh gosh, it's exhausting. Well, exhausting in a bad way. But we are going to learn all about what happens tomorrow night when it happens. So again, I will be here after the episode tomorrow to talk about all things that happen in the BB Blockbuster, who gets evicted, and all of our predictions for this next week in the Big Brother 28 house. Later!